Okay, we can go on.
Almost I'm done. It's going on Zoom, Facebook Live. Let me just check. Shall we? We still have about a couple of minutes to go, but it's already live on Facebook. Good evening, friends. Good evening, viewers. I welcome you all for this live webinar series on Facebook page from on the behalf of Enigma Karnataka. Enigma is Indian Naturopathy and Yoga Medical Graduates Association, which has been in existence for nearly about 2 decades, 2.5 decades, from the time when the first batch of BNYS graduates graduated in 1994 from SDM College of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences. Today, in this situation of pandemic, we thought as an association, we need to give a lot of health tips to general public to make sure that their immunity, their health, well-being in terms of physical, mental, and spiritual way is maintained to fight this situation. As we don't have a direct answer to the virus and the pandemic, what we are facing today. In this event, as a team, we took a call and we invited quite a few speakers who are stalwarts in their own field of specialization to deliver their thoughts and views of how we can maintain our health and well-being to the optimal levels in this pandemic situation. Uh, to give a small introduction, I am Dr. Gurudat, founder of Anandamaya Wellness Center in Bangalore, and also an executive committee member of Enigma Karnataka chapter. Today, as the first session begins, as the first webinar series begins, we have invited Dr. Manjunath NK, who is a very close friend of mine. And at the same time, we were college mates and we spent a lot of time together in the college. And it will be very little for me to speak about him. There are pages together for me to speak about him. With his kind of qualification and kind of achievements, it's not enough for me to just say a few words. He's such a simple and down-to-earth person as far as I know. To give a brief about him, he completed his bachelor's in naturopathy and yogic sciences from SDM College, Ujire in Karnataka in 95, if I'm right. Yes, 95. Then he was one of the first of the graduates who came out from our college, and we were in the waters which we don't know what we had to do. That was the situation when he came out of the college. And today he is guided probably n number of PhDs, MDs from SVASA University. He is also the head of research and head of SVASA University today. And he has published more than 65 papers under his name in reputed journals across the world. And a few other points to mention about him is he has done his BNYS PhD in yoga and geriatric medicine. That was something which he has very close to his heart, and he has completed his PhD on that. And he went on to get the degree of Doctorate of Science from SVASA University. He is only one of the two who got the DSc from SVASA University today, as of now. And he has given several talks across the world in top-notch universities, including Harvard Medical School and Monash University in Australia. And he has given his talks even in Royal College of Medicine in London And if I'm not wrong, he also had the opportunity to address the British parliamentarians last year on the International Yoga Day. I still remember talking to him a few days before he left to London about his achievements, and I was so proud to talk to him that day. So this list goes on. It never ends for me to explain about him. And he is also a member of several committees at the central government level, including Niti Aayog. And one of the projects in the Department of Science and Technology is a scientific advisor for a Satyam program. And at the same time, he's also he's the founder director of global chain of Vivekananda Health Global Institutes or centers, which follows integrative medicine. In the sense, naturopathy, yoga, and Ayurveda integrated together for non-communicable diseases. They have several centers across the world. If I'm right, a couple of them in Bangalore, China, US, and many more, I think, in the pipeline coming up. And he's also, sorry, one second. And this Vivekananda Health Global is also at Boston Center of Excellence, Boston, USA. And at the same time, he's also vice president of Asian Yoga Therapy Association in Singapore. So this is a very brief intro about him. And he has decided to talk about how acute illnesses can be prevented to turn to chronic, which is the situation today. Most of the chronic illnesses what we are facing, and that's a big burden on the human race itself today, which is causing highest mortality than any other conditions in the world today. So he is going to talk about the intervention of naturopathic medicine on how to prevent the acute to become chronic. If you have any questions, please post it on the Facebook. We are open to take the questions and give the relevant answers to it. Thank you so much for viewing us. I now ask Dr. Manjunath to take over and we proceed accordingly. Please, Dr. Manjunath.
Thank you, Dr. Gurudatta. It was nice. I mean, you took me through those sweet memories right from the college to the present day. Okay, so those are wonderful, cherishable memories, what each one of us had, and we take it forward. We also, particularly this initiative from the Enigma Karnataka called as Arogya Mantana is an amazing idea, conceptualized so well to connect people who are in the field of yoga and naturopathy with not just with the practitioners, but also with the common man or a public. Gurudatta asked me about this whole idea that I should be talking in this forum. And Dr. Nagajyoti, who is the most active person across this naturopathy practitioners, as well as far as the association is concerned, she has been another person who pushed me to be with all of you today. It's my pleasure, privilege to be here. Let me clarify one thing. Okay, so there is a Dr. Gurudatta sitting there and many other practitioners present here today. What I'm going to talk today is about my personal experience rather than my experience of handling patients. Okay, so I have, as part of my research career, of course, I was part of the whole naturopathy hospital. Then we have something called Arogyadam in our university, where we treat patients of various illnesses. But I look at them with a research spectacle in my mind. Okay, so I always look at, okay, this person has come with a problem. There's a line of treatment being given. Why are they giving this treatment, first of all? So this is what the first question comes to my mind. And number two, why these people have come to yoga, naturopathy, and be it Ayurveda or anything else, when the whole world is telling that they have something called cure for several problems.
Yeah.
So this has led us to a decent 25 years of research career, which has answered many of those basic questions what each one of the naturopathy students would have when they are studying. Okay, so because we always think that we bring in a component of considering naturopathy as an alternative. Okay, so sometimes we consider naturopathy as a complementary. Okay, but we never think that naturopathy is mainstream. Okay, so what I am going to talk today is all about really considering naturopathy as mainstream medicine, because that's where naturopathy has so much to offer. And naturopathy, I mean, it includes yoga. So yoga and naturopathy are not two systems. For us, it is one system of medicine. So when Dr. Gurudatta asked me what would be the topic which you would be interested to talk, then I said that what has really worried me over a period of time is that we know that many problems start as simple issues, what we call them as acute illness or acute problems.
Yes.
And we, with complete happiness, nurture it to take it to a chronic illness. Okay, so in my research, what I have been really looking at is that point where we can break this chain of an acute illness moving to a chronic illness. And if we can do so, then I am 100% sure that naturopathy is the answer for various illnesses, not limiting to non-communicable diseases. Let me say it very clearly. So somehow we are mentally, we are so comfortable in telling that we treat non-communicable diseases. Sorry, I mean, naturopathy can handle any condition. We always relate handling either infectious condition or anything else as we don't deal with any medication or any tool what we use from outside. But honestly speaking, naturopathy is both external and internal. Okay, so this is second clarification I wanted to make. So don't consider naturopathy as something what you do externally. Okay, there are lots of things what we do internally. So why we are bringing all these components today is purely to understand these two concepts and break this barrier and break this bridge between them. So each one of you might have had this experience of some acute illness. Okay, so if I ask you which are all those each one of us have definitely experienced, you have a list. So there is fever, so rise in temperature, and there is cold cough, which are response to either a change in climate or exposure to an allergen or an external agent. So then you have the series of issues to do with your digestive system. So you face small little problems. Okay, suddenly one day morning, everything is fine, but you feel constipated. Another day you feel that, okay, I have a little more of frequency. So either it results in either a diarrhea or a dysentery kind of it, and it subsides on its own. You don't do much. And you have various other problems like a small fall can result in you having a swelling, okay, redness, okay, and pain. So all those what we see on a day-to-day basis, these are all the acute problems, okay, acute illnesses. In naturopathy, we believe, and today scientifically I can say with enough evidence that acute illness is an amazing body's response to safeguard our own physiological as well as anatomical structures. Physiological processes, because there are very short variations. Whenever we have any of these acute illnesses, it is something like it brings in a change in the physiological process to set it right. Okay, so change in physiological process is nothing to do with pathological condition. Exactly. So we always use this word crisis. Okay, in naturopathy text, if you look at, it's acute crisis. Okay, so crisis is a word which each one of us know. So you know that there's a small crisis, there's a very big crisis. So today what we are in the pandemic of COVID is a very big crisis. Okay, so how do we set it right? Number one, naturopathy says you don't do anything. Leave it to the body to manage itself. Okay. You take any of these examples, the one thing what happens is there's a process of fighting. Okay. So the defense force within your body taking over to actually throw that disease causing agent out. Okay. It's as simple as that. And in the process to do that, it would require a lot of support system, and body provides in various ways that support system. So when we want to really do that, we have all these surfacing out. Okay, fever is a wonderful example. Okay, there cannot be a better friend than fever. Fever is such a worrisome problem. Everywhere you have the digital thermometers waiting for you, whether do you have a fever or not. And if you have a fever, then people relate it to COVID, and people take you in an ambulance and put you somewhere. But let me tell you, be it COVID, fever is an amazing symptom which tells there is something happening inside. You don't meddle, you give complete rest, and you allow the body to heal. Something like that. Facebook, I don't know. Friends, it looks like there is some issue with the network on Dr. Manjunath's end. To just continue, what he was talking about, the stuff like the acute illnesses or a fever, which is possibly a response of the body to correct or reach a stage of homeostasis. Naturopathy is the best medicine or kind of intervention to make sure that you support your system to face the acute situation and not turn towards the chronic. So we just need to make sure that we give all the support in terms of rest, in terms of food, in terms of our mind, mental health, what we call it as at Manomaya Kosha, at every level, to make sure that the body has the ability to fight the antigen or an infection or any other external agent to retain and come back to homeostasis. That is a wonderful thing which happens with naturopathic medicine. Just a second, hold on please. We will find out if kindly hold on. We are getting back Dr. Manjunath online. Just a second.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, it's a glitch. So
yeah, technical issues keep happening in this world today. This is bound to happen. So it's part and parcel. I just, Dr. Manjunath, I just continued a few words where you left over, and how we have to intervene with naturopathic rest and trust our system, trust our healing system to allow it to manage the acute crisis. Probably by then you join back, so you can continue accordingly.
very, very true. So what I was telling was, if you really want to remember the rationale, just remember these three words: uh, remove, repair, and rehabilitate. So that's what naturopathy does. Okay, remove the cause. So that's where we stand out compared to other conventional system of medicine, which looks at symptomatic treatment, symptomatic relief. Naturopathy looks at removing the cause. Okay, so second thing is repair. We know it very well. Removal starts with working on all that detoxification. Removal involves elimination. Removal involves throwing out that foreign matter which is there, because of which body is disturbed. So what we are trying to do is, when you take several physiological processes, every system is involved in it. The digestive system is the source or the hub for this whole healing or repair mechanism. We treat today looking at the gut microbiome.
Yes.
Okay, so it is believed that there's a wonderful genetic mapping done, and now microbiome mapping is being done. And it is said that you can actually understand everything to do with an individual if you can understand the gut microbiome. In yoga, all of you know it very well that we talk about the digestive system playing a major role. Okay, we always say that the first thing what happens is either an ajirnatva, kujirnatva, or atijirnatva. So these are all the common factors what each one of us observe, and what we simply do is try to suppress them. Okay, so if we really want to bring in a repair mechanism, once you do the detoxification, elimination, whatever you want to throw out of the body, then you have this whole process of rehabilitation. Rehab is nothing to do with physical rehabilitation. Rehab is the word which is used simply to say that whenever there is a derangement, how quickly you can fix it back so that the normalcy is maintained. So body does it all the time. So it tries rehabilitating any small little problem which is seen, and tries to bring it back to homeostasis. And that's what we do. And all of us know very well that in naturopathy, we give importance to another factor. When you actually look at how do you break this chain of acute becoming chronic, what we always see that we don't suppress the acute illness, rather we heal it there only. And many times these are very good things. Okay, so probably it is needed for us to fix a bigger problem. And what we actually do is, in naturopathy, it's always said the first line of treatment is langanam paramaushadam. Okay, so calorie restriction. This is a very big science. Okay, but we talk as if it is said in our ancient methodologies like upavasa. You do one day, you do a break, you break your regular routine of eating and stay away from food, was a standard what was followed. But in naturopathy, it means a lot. Calorie restriction through naturopathy is a systematic process. Okay, so somebody comes to a naturopathy center, he'll never be asked to fast with nothing given on day one. So as you put people into fasting, equally there is a system to take them out of fasting. And there are 100 methods. Okay, so be it on keeping people on a juice-based fasting, keeping them on a fruit-based fasting, just simple vegetable or boiled vegetable-based soups and fasting, and bringing them back to regular food. Whatever we are doing, what we are trying to do is restrict the calories. Okay. So number one, it's as simple as this, that when you want to repair something, the tank is full of dirt. So you cannot clean the tank without stopping the inlet of water coming into it. So the water is bringing more and more dirt. So there is no way you can understand where the dirt is sitting and how do I clean it. So this is what happens in fasting. And basically, we all know very well that when you bring in calorie restriction, many things happen in our body. Number one is the oxidative stress reduces. Oxidative stress is one major component responsible for various levels of inflammation. So today, you talk about any non-communicable disease, be it diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, or anything else, there's a low-grade chronic inflammation sitting in your body, which is contributing to this chronic condition, which is not even understood by many people. So this inflammatory process can be curtailed and given a positive direction for healing right when you make people restrict their input of calories. And fasting also does many other things. So number one, it restricts calories. Number two, along with that, in naturopathy, you talk a lot about eliminative therapies. So food is used as eliminative therapy. External treatments are used as eliminative therapies. And very simple, people are told you drink lots of fluids, okay? So we have forgotten drinking water, right? So drink as many liters of water as possible so that the flushing effect happens in your body, okay? So
just to interrupt in between, what you mentioned was very, very nice, that fasting, which is an elimination of calories, restricted calories, will help us to curtail the oxidative stress and leading to the inflammation being curtailed or managed. Do you think somewhere mind also plays a big role in that? Or
very much. See, what we do is fasting, once again, is not a word to be used only for calorie restriction. So calorie here means, according to the true sense, calories to the body and calories to the mind. Okay, so the calorie to load to the mind also has to be definitely restricted. Okay. So that's when there is a balance between both of these. Many people do this mistake. They are on fasting, they try doing all their normal work, engaging their mind. And that's where we talk about yoga. We mention that you have to do a lot of pranayama and meditation during that time. And you also need to slow down the process of thinking. And the thoughts, the speeded up thoughts are what we related to stress. And when you do all this, when you bring in Langanam, that is meant for both body and mind. Probably this is a new way what we all understand, but this is the way what it is said very nicely in the Yoga Vasistha. It is said in many other texts of Ayurveda. When you talk about Langanam or fasting, it is the Langanam of both body and mind, what has been used. So what I was trying to connect was, see, this low-grade inflammation, low-grade healing crisis. We are not going to suppress it. We are going to create many vents, okay, so that we allow wherever there are problems, as I was talking about cleaning up a tank. So you close it, now you clean, you know where the dirt is, you put some fresh water if needed, you put some extra force if needed, you scrape it, remove it, and throw it out. Body does this. We truly don't know the power of the healing power of body, but that's what happens. And we also bring in lots of other components
Before you proceed to the next stage, how can we connect this to our present COVID situation? My personal view is like that. We get to see, I mean, that's what we hear all about, a lot of asymptomatic cases. Majority of them are asymptomatic. And I understand some of the patients who have been tested positive also, they are just in isolation for about 2 weeks with basic medication, antipyretics and supplements of vitamin C, and they're fine. So isn't it a kind of naturopathic intervention itself, which is talking about giving rest during that time and helping just to manage the symptoms and making sure that the body is getting the energy or capacity to heal itself, improve the vitality? I personally feel we have to mentally become much more stronger to face this rather than face this COVID situation. The moment people get into a situation that, oh, I'm into COVID and I need to, there is no treatment for that. So my life is complete. I may die. So that is the indication which has come into picture and which is causing a lot of panic. So ultimately, what is happening even in the COVID situation is nothing but some of the naturopathic principles being taken care there.
No,
what do you
very
think
true.
about that?
Very true, Guru. That if, see, you are seeing so many COVID positive patients. The recovery rate is very high.
Yes.
Honestly speaking, till today, no treatment has been taken as a proven treatment.
Exactly.
So, if that is the case, what is making these people recover? It's their own body's innate healing power. Okay, so some of them, due to XYZ reasons, their viral load has increased, they have turned positive. Some of them are asymptomatic, while some are symptomatic. But in both the cases, the recovery rate is very high purely because, number one, all these things are happening. You take them, they are putting them into a hospital or a quarantine place. So number one, their food is regulated, their activities are regulated, and they are not allowed to do many other things. So you're bringing a kind of a langanam to their overall day-to-day activity. And number two, when you actually, if you are a regular a person with good lifestyle, recovery is amazingly quick. Okay, so you know it very well that there are three places where naturopathy and yoga can do this kind of blocking. Okay, so we're converting this acute to chronic, asymptomatic to symptomatic. Symptomatic, who are non-severe acute respiratory infection, turning out to severe acute respiratory infection patients. In both these cases, only three things happen. Number one, there is body's defense mechanism. When it understands that there's too much of virus, I need to fight very strongly. There is something happens called cytokine storm. Okay, so this is number one. What we are talking about, low grade inflammation, this is highest grade inflammation. Okay, so cytokines are those healing forces which fight against any resisting agent. So that actually can lead to an individual moving from kind of a simple symptomatic condition to a severe respiratory illness person. So this is where the pneumonia sets in. So if naturopathy and yoga is introduced to these people at this stage, and you prevent this low grade to high grade inflammation, prevent cytokine storm, then you are actually making so many people come out of this big problem without even tasting that severe acute respiratory infection. And the third thing
90% of the cases might come back.
Little more than 90%. Okay. And the last stage also, for example, there are two things happening in this. Simple pneumonia is manageable. When it turns to be severe acute respiratory infection, turning into be a severe.
Yeah.
So somebody can be managed on a simple oxygen line, moves to a ventilator.
Correct.
So this is where yoga comes very handy. We have done a study where we saw if you make them do deep abdominal diaphragmatic breathing, it works like a yogic ventilator. We are publishing a paper on it. So it increases oxygen saturation. If you are a normal healthy person, if your oxygen saturation is very high already, it increases by 3 to 4 units. If it is you are a COPD patient, if you are a COVID patient, etc., we have tested it in Canada, in UK, and in Italy, etc. People, they have increased their oxygen saturation significantly. If you can do that, you are preventing them moving from pneumonia to a severe problem. Even hypercoagulability, what has been one of the major reasons for series of heart problems in COVID, can be managed with yoga and naturopathy based lifestyle. So we have seen changing the lipid profile of an individual is such a simple tool, which has been made a complex tool. So naturopathic lifestyle and yoga based intervention can bring a 90-degree shift into this lipid profile of an individual, which is responsible for several issues. So you said it right, Dr. Gurudat, that we can bring in the same components, whether we are bringing or not, these are being used in COVID management. I'm very happy many of the naturopathy doctors are involved in COVID management, and many naturopathy treatments are being given for COVID patients. They are all recovering very well. And we are introducing yoga, in particular, yoga therapy for COVID patients at both levels, symptomatic and severe. So this is going to show an amazing. So this also explains how yoga and naturopathy can help us in preventing somebody with an acute illness moving to a chronic illness. This applies to every condition. Okay, so I mean, if I can give a list to you, for example, you know it very well that a simple acute, frequent cold, cough, fever, etc. These indicate something. Number one indication is that your immunity is going low.
Correct.
So if we can fix it there, we don't need to suppress it. If we are not fixing it there.
Yeah, true. What you're mentioning is very true. But I feel what is happening, across the systems and everything, the mind of a common man is attuned to a situation that you get a simple fever or a simple cold and cough, you're reacting to it in such a way, mentally and physically. Oh my God, I cannot attend my work tomorrow. I cannot take care of my family tomorrow. What will happen to me? So mentally, I am becoming that much more weaker rather than handling the situation. I still, if I'm right, most of the Western countries, even today, if you have a simple fever, they will not give any medication for about 3 days to 5 days. Wait and watch how the body recovers. Only when the healing crisis is turning towards a disease crisis, probably you have to need to intervene. Until then, we don't need to.
You are absolutely right, Dr. Guru, because see, the basic problem with us, which we think is that up to a rural population, forget about urban population, they are all wedded to modern medicine. So this is thinking. Honestly speaking, somebody somewhere we need to change it, and COVID has changed many things like this. Okay, so today we have learned how just to sit at home. So many patients, so many people, those who have got fever, they have not gone to hospitals. So many people have not taken medication. We have done a survey pan-India in around 25,000 people. And number of people who said that they have not taken any medication during this lockdown are little more than 50%. So, and the same people said that they had the experience of these small little problems like fever, etc., but they had not taken medication. This is the lesson what they have learned. 50% out of 23,000 people is big. Okay,
Very big.
so that's the kind of a transformation which is happening, and we need to bring in this awareness to people. Okay, and at the same time, we cannot leave them like that, telling that okay, you don't worry, nothing is going to happen. Fever, it will go in 3 days. Cough, cold, it's going to disappear. Then it's wrong, because every person, somebody who is in pain, somebody who is in problem, they want a solution. So naturopathy offers those healthy solutions. Okay, that's why I said, don't think naturopathy is only external. Okay, so in naturopathy, you use all those herbs, all those anything which is natural, which has a medicinal value, you use it. Okay, and when you use natural with medicinal value, it's always to promote healing, not to suppress healing. Okay, so imagine you have a cold or a cough kind of it. So you do a jalaneti, as simple as this. Okay, so you use a lukewarm saline water. Today, the saline therapy is very famous in the West for common cold. But in naturopathy, we shy away in prescribing it when somebody has a cold. And people have better awareness now that for everything I should not pop up a pill. So I should do something which can heal my damaged part or a damaged system. So that's what is happening.
If I can intervene in between, I just read about a couple of days back a newspaper published article in Pune hospital that all the COVID doctors, COVID warriors, frontline doctors and nurses, they have started doing jalaneti in the name of anterior nasal wash. And none of them have turned positive even after 3 to 4 weeks of dealing with COVID-19 cases. So that itself is a clear indication of how our system is robust enough to manage and such a situation what we are going through right now.
Very true. The Nanavati hospital in Mumbai and this hospital in Pune, they are prescribing jalaneti outright. Okay, they are telling whether you have a problem or not, all of you do jalaneti. Okay, so but it's fact. Like when doctors, so-called modern medical doctors prescribe, everybody takes it seriously. Is what we think. Okay, so what I am trying to emphasize is if we can give a solution which they can appreciate, which can bring a change in them, which can produce quick results. So this is where we always think that naturopathy or many Indian systems of medicine cannot produce quick results. That's what we believe, we think. But honestly speaking, there are so many simple things you can do, which because of which you can have such quick results. Today, has anybody thought that every house you will have a small steam inhaler?
Exactly.
Okay, so everybody knows that they buy one small thing of either an aroma oil or a eucalyptus oil or something like that, and they just put one drop of it and they take a steam, and they are cultivating this habit right from the childhood of children. Okay, so parents, they have got into this understanding, and somebody has a little bit of cold, cough, etc. They make them do this steam inhalation. You know it very well. Nasal mucosa is an amazing substance. Okay, so we always think that we remember it only when we have a cold. So when it disturbs you, when one nostril is blocked, then only you think about a nose. But there's so much we can understand. It is an index, according to me. I am doing a lot of research on exhaled breath. Okay, so exhaled breath can be treated as an index of your health. It has so many volatile chemicals. When you breathe out, we think only carbon dioxide is one what we are exhaling. But you can look at the exhaled breath and tell that what kind of an inflammation is there in your body. Which systems are probably getting affected, because there is a signature molecules which can be seen in your exhaled breath, which can tell you much before it turns pathologic, I mean, a serious organic problem. So we don't treat our own system seriously. We don't understand it the way it has to be. So exhaled breath is one of them, which I always look at as an amazing thing, because pranayama, we always worry about inhalation. Okay, so take a deep inhale through one nostril, exhale through other nostril. But what is coming out in an exhaled breath has never been an area of interest to many. But today, uh, at least we are working very seriously on it. We are developing some gadgets to understand this. How do we really use it as a tool for healing? But also pranayama, make people do pranayama. See, for example, people with stroke, people with those who are bedridden, etc. They are not able to do any pranayama or anything, but they are just lying on the bed. So imagine if there is a tool using which you can make them do pranayama. Okay, there is nothing like that. So we have created something called a pranayama automator, which can be used in rehabilitation, where based on the breath frequency, it calibrates itself and make people do either a right nostril breathing or a left nostril or an alternate nostril breathing. So this way, naturopathy and yoga can be used extensively in various ways if we can break the monotony of our thinking. Okay, yes. So what we do is we hold our thinking and say that, okay, I can do only this, and this is what is taught to me. Okay. If as naturopathy doctors, naturopathy practitioners, and patients, those who are using naturopathy, if we don't connect ourselves with latest developments, probably somebody else will start using it. And as you said, in COVID, many people are using it. So
I have a question coming up. Yeah. You very well put it. I want to just elaborate a little more on that. So pranayama in that sense would be a kind of eliminative process as well, to make sure that our system reaches a state of homeostasis. That means to say that irrespective of anybody, any condition, pranayama need to be prescribed for everybody generically.
Absolutely. I mean, I say that pranayama has to become a part and parcel of your day-to-day activity. So right. Don't even think that you have to do it like you do a general yoga in the morning.
Correct.
The particularly pranayama has a very big role to play. What we call it as conscious breathing. Okay. Right. So if you can change the pattern of your breathing, bring in pranayama breathing, at least deep breathing. Okay. Yes. Slow down your breathing consciously. That can do lots of good. Second thing, whoever has asked the question, you are very right. It is an amazing eliminative technique. Okay. So one way it constructs by taking oxygen, providing all that what is needed for establishing the system. Number two, it throws away so many things which we believe that it's only carbon dioxide, but for me it's a world. Okay, so last around 6 years or so, I'm looking at it like a galaxy. Okay, so in the exhaled breath. So it's true, pranayama and exhalation in particular is an amazing tool for elimination. Was there any other question?
Yeah, one more question coming up. One lady is asking, when would we know that a problem has turned into a chronic illness? If an illness disappears and appears later, is that also to be considered as chronic illness?
Very true. To understand when something turns acute to chronic. So I have a few list of things which will make you understand it very easily. Okay, so one simple thing, we all know it very well. For example, stress and bad lifestyle can affect a young teenage girl. Okay, so this, number one, without her knowledge, it can influence her secretion of hormones, and there is an imbalance in hormonal secretion. So now what happens, its reflection is on simple menstrual irregularity. Okay, so if I can sense it, if I think or consult somebody who can guide me properly, not just providing me pills, but fix the problem, whether it is stress I am going through or it's bad lifestyle what I am going through, I need to fix that, you can remove it there itself. But if you are not doing it, we have so many youngsters suffering from PCOD today. Okay, so there are range of other menstrual health, problems. These can be simple in the beginning, which you know it very well, that it can be a small little issue. But time and again, if you suppress it, if you don't fix it, then it becomes chronic. When you know that it has become a chronic problem, uh, uh, then there is a serious symptom. Okay, so either you have lots of issues with your menstrual cycle, or you have some other serious problems related to PCOD. So suddenly you start seeing yourself a bit different. You put on weight, you do this, you do that, and you take more tablets, you put on more weight, and then that obesity adds to your problem again of PCOD. So this is a kind of a vicious cycle. And similarly,
generally put one point there. The more you become aware of yourself and your innate mechanisms, and then you can understand when a acute problem comes in, what exactly it means, when it turns to a chronic situation. Generally, what is happening with our mad rush of lifestyle today, what we are having, we don't even hear what is happening to our body. We don't give a damn thing. We just consider it as a machine and keep on going and going and going. I would rather say COVID is a situation where it is giving, we have to introspect ourselves. Why should we run so much? Slow down, do what is required at its required pace. So that, I think the whole world has to understand today and bring in that revolutionary change, I would say, rather than evolutionary change. Unless that happens, we are going to be in the same line of thought. As you rightly put, yoga may be the best solution to raise that awareness of when an acute situation is there, when it is going to turn to a chronic situation, how do I prevent, whom do I approach, what should I do? Luckily, we are in a situation of technological innovations that information is at our fingertips today. So it's just that our responsibility to find the right information and implement it with the right mind.
No, the key is, as you rightly said, sensitizing your body whereby you can feel the problem. Okay, so we are actually not sensitive where we should be, and we are very sensitive where we should not be. Okay, so when it comes to your own emotional upsurges and maintaining your ego, we become so sensitive. When you have to be looking at your body and listening to its problems, we are never sensitive. So the second question what was asked was also very interesting, that imagine somebody moves to a chronic condition, becomes a chronic problem, and they get it treated and they get back. Okay, so what is the status they are in? Are they in an acute stage now? Have they come back to acute stage? Or are they in between, whereby they are prone for becoming chronic once again? Yeah. What we call in various lifestyle-based disorders is that complete reversibility is possible. I'm telling you, as a naturopath, openly say that you can reverse diabetes. Okay, so we shy away in telling this. Tomorrow, somebody is going to say, an allopathy doctor, reversing heart disease was spoken long back. Reversing diabetes will be spoken from other fraternity. In America, there is a college called American College of Lifestyle Medicine. If naturopaths from here, if they are not going to talk about it, America is going to talk about it. And they are going to talk about reversibility. But with a caution, we have to talk that you should always give a list saying that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you can fix these and maintain them, reversibility is 100%. If you deviate in this 25%, reversibility becomes 75%. If you shift it to 50%, reversibility is 50%. So if you take it to 75, your reversibility is 25%. So this understanding and calculation, if it sinks into anyone's head, they will manage themselves. We don't need to worry. We have to provide that helping hand to them. Okay, so naturopathy certainly brings in these components very strongly. And see, today you talk about diabetes, which is a chronic illness. You talk about hypertension, you talk about arthritis, you talk about many other conditions. All of them can be curtailed when it is an acute problem. Many times we give a reason that I will never know when my blood sugar level has increased. So I got to know only when a doctor tested me and he said that my blood sugar is very high, 400. So it gives lots of signals to you. Okay, so we don't need to be looking for those signals. Then we will become crazy. Okay, so because there are so many diseases, if you are looking at the symptoms of every disease, then you will become a crazy guy. But rather, when your body tells that there is a small little issue, in somebody, there can be a small itching sensation in the body, okay, in the extremities. In somebody else, you have an issue to do with your urinary tract. In somebody else, it is to do with the digestive system. Everything need not be diabetes, okay? Everything can tell you there is some kind of an issue. You don't need to go and test your blood sugar. You fix your lifestyle. Whatever problem it can be it diabetes, be it hypertension, you are fixing it. You don't need to see, you don't need to understand that I was probably going to become a diabetic. Okay, fix it acute when it is an acute problem, then you are done with it. That's what yoga and naturopathy can do.
A simple, in my personal experience and my experience with the patients, most of us today, at least the middle class, upper middle class, and high class society, we always tend to overeat. Body gives signals every time when we eat, when to stop. We don't hear to our GI, we hear to our tongue. That's the simple thing of awareness. If we can get along, I would feel rather we can prevent many of the NCDs or low-grade inflammatory conditions. Not even acute conditions can crop up.
Very true.
So these are some of the things which can come up with a regular practice of yoga and becoming highly aware and sensitized ourselves in the right perspective can prevent a lot of things.
In my experience, as we are coming to the last part of our wonderful discussion,
yes,
my experience, age is not a limitation. Okay, so at any age, anything can be fixed unless it has crossed a level. Even when it has crossed a level, you can bring it to a manageable level. Okay, so for example, imagine somebody at around 45 to 50-year-old. So the BMI has increased, the waist circumference has gone up, and now you think that you have to go and do some lot of exercise to bring your body weight down. I have done lots of studies on understanding this process of converting an adipose stretching exercise into an obesity management tool. You use different yoga techniques differently. Okay, so we always look at doing yoga in a very simple manner. It has its own benefits, but use yoga extensively through its biomechanics, use its physiological benefits, use its benefits on musculoskeletal system. Simple yoga-based cardio can help many people at any age to really create a kind of cardiac health back to their normalcy. Similarly, you want to really work on specific muscle groups on your body, yoga can do it. I mean, it's a wrong conception. I'm telling again and again that we think yoga cannot do certain things. Okay, I'm not talking about building your muscles. I'm not talking about making somebody a six-pack guy, but it is possible. I'm telling, there are practices, even at 50 you do it. You can, if you rigorously and if you systematically do it, give your body 6 months time to 8 months time, you can actually reduce decent amount of fat from your body. You can also create a muscular strengthening in your body. Do a lot of isometric yoga. Okay, so that can actually work on all these kind of things, and integrate your diet in such a way that it supports you rather than creating a barrier for your health. You said it very well, that eating is the biggest problem. Okay, so we listen to the tongue, we don't listen to our requirement. Our founder of S. Vyasa University, Nagendra ji, many of you have heard, Dr. H.R. Nagendra. He always gives this example of Kurukshetra war. Okay, so what happens is basically there is a Duryodhana in us, each one of us.
Yes.
So what happens is we know that this should not be eaten more, or I should avoid eating certain things. So, but when there is something in front of you, there is a Kurukshetra war. So tongue says, go and eat, go and eat, go and eat. But the buddhi says that, come on, it's going to harm you. But finally tongue wins, because we have seen how Duryodhana character, it is a symbolic of how we go with wrong virtues to satisfy our own needs. So that's what we basically do. The take-home message I wanted to give, that very simple, these certain things try to remember. This, once again, I am quoting Dr. Nagaratna, who is a well-known personality for yoga therapy, and she has brought in so many reforms into this system. When you talk about diet, she says only three things. So use this TTT, okay, the 3 letters TTT she always says. That stands for, it's a Kannada word, okay, it stands for Tatte Tumba Tarkari, okay. So, and she also says that you reverse the order. So generally we put vegetables in the bowls and we put so much of rice and other things in the center. You just reverse this order. So put all other things what you want to eat in those bowls. Put lots of this tarkari or vegetables and other things in the center. So that is one reform you need to definitely bring in. Second thing is about, I'm talking about lifestyle. The second thing take home is about your exercise, physical activity. Once again, remember WWW. So this is not World Wrestling Federation. Okay. So remember this. Number one, whether you do yoga, you do exercise, you do go to gym, do a lot of workout. Okay. So workout doesn't mean that you have to go and lift weights. So workout is to work on each and every muscle and joint of your body. That's all is needed for you. And number two is WW is whether you do gym, go to gym, do yoga or anything, do a lot of walking. Minimum of 4 kilometers of walking is a must for everybody above 30 years of age. Okay, if you have a sedentary lifestyle. I'm not going to talk about the physiological benefits, so much you can get. And the last one is definitely what we always talk about is try to work, okay? And otherwise, I always call it as watch your waistline, okay? So if you really want to understand when you need more exercise or less exercise, if you watch your waistline, it will tell you you need more exercise. So WWW, remember, for your physical activity or exercise. And of course, the last one is your habits, okay? So when you talk of habits, so what we always look at is 3 Ds, okay? So number 1 D is always develop such a mental aptitude whereby you can moderate all those habits which actually creates craving in you. Okay, so number two is, of course, distance all those which you know that those are going to cause harm to you. Okay, and number three, direct definitely all your thoughts as per your requirement of your mind, not as per the requirement of your senses. Okay, so DDD, if you remember, the habits are taken care. And the last one is sleep. So I don't need to tell anything about sleep as part of your lifestyle. Each one of you know that an X amount of sleep is needed for you. But COVID-19 has given lots of wonderful challenges to your sleep. Many people spend a lot of time in the night watching something or the other, but you have to respect the basic cycles. Okay, so you have the diurnal cycle, you have the basic day-night cycle, because these are all connected with your physiology. Okay, so never say no to your body demands, rather say yes to your body demands. So we always call, there is another thing called Vegha Dharana in Ayurveda. So you have certain urges. Sleep is one such urge. Okay, so never control it. Like when you are feeling sleepy, you want to complete that watching that movie on Amazon Prime. So don't do it. Respect your body, respect your sleep, and take it forward. So I can keep talking, but
Yes.
it's 6 o'clock. Wonderful spending time with all of you, particularly chatting with my wonderful good friend, Guru Datta, and thanks to Dr. Nagajyoti. So Guru, if you have anything, you
Yes.
are free to share.
A small question, Dr. Manjunath. I happen to see and tell my patients most of the time, the biggest enemy today is sitting for long hours. What do you think about it? You have already mentioned about it. Can you share some scientific insights or something, some research papers which has studied about the ill effects or chronic effects of sitting for long hours, which is being across the world today?
Yeah, definitely. See, I mean, sitting for long has got lots of impacts on the body. Once it has an impact on the body, it will have an impact on the mind. Number one, it's very easy to talk about ergonomics.
Yes.
Impossible to follow. Okay, let us not say that once upon a time, Godrej, who manufactures chairs, so they have tried their best to manufacture an ergonomically designed chair whereby your spinal curvature is maintained and your body is at its best. See, body cannot remain in one position for little more than 40 minutes. Okay, so this is what we always tell. Even in, we had a project on yoga for computer use related health problems. So today you are asking a direct question irrespective of computer use, but sitting for long hours. Computer users earlier, the software engineer, they used to sit for little more than 8 hours with a breaks after 2 hours, 3 hours in between. So what we have designed based on lots of research done on musculoskeletal system is that your body can cooperate with you for as long as 40 minutes. After that, you need to change your position or rather give the body a kind of motion. So you cannot hold it in a kind of stationary or stagnatory position. So what all happens? So there are joints bent at particular places in a same way for longer duration. Unless your body is acclimatized, body understands that this is the position you are going to sit, body is going to reject it. Body is going to throw lots of chemicals against it. Okay. And number two, the metabolic processes are affected very badly. when you just sit and you are not in any motion. That's why it is said that movement is very much needed. Even though you are sitting in a particular place, at least get up once in an hour and walk few steps as small as around 100 steps. And number three, this can also lead to lots of problems. One of them very well known is the obesity. Okay, and you know it very well that male are more prone for abdominal adiposity, whereas female are more prone for gluteal and abdominal adiposity. So both these can increase if you sit in a position for longer time. The much worst problem is you eat and sit. Okay, so that can add to this whole process much seriously. So sitting has got its own impact on the body. It is said that in yogic texts, you can sit for hours together in a meditative posture. So there is an alignment what happens when you do a meditative posture, which is impossible for anybody who is doing all kinds of activities to maintain. Okay, so you have to be doing that meditation to sit in that. See, I want to move forward, raise my arms to use my computer. Or I'm using my mobile like this and I'm doing lots of activities. Range of group of muscles up to my intercostal muscles are stretched and they are overstrained. I never bother about it. Lots of issues today, even up to as serious as fibromyalgia, okay, have its roots in these kind of simple problems what we are creating. I think these are some of the ways which we can understand. And the simple solution is just don't sit, just walk.
Yes, I remember there are offices today organizing tables where the employees have to stand and work rather than sit and work. That's the change which has come along. And to put an extension of the same question, do you think that keeping your mind on a particular subject for 40 minutes or beyond also strains your mind, not just the body? We need to have a change in the thought process and your focus and everything to keep the mind and the brain much more active and balance of creativity and analytical portions.
Definitely, it is said that, see, for school children, we say that a class should not be beyond 45 minutes. Honestly speaking, a lot of research has been done in neuroscience, which says that if you have focused attention on one particular thing, it can never last beyond 10 minutes. Okay, so then what happens? An extra amount of effort is needed for you to focus. That's where you start burning that sugar in your brain. Okay, so you know it, 20% of the energy is burnt in your brain itself.
Yes.
So what exactly happens is what we can appreciate in the body, we will never appreciate in the mind when you are putting. Another added task, bigger problem is when you are doing it for 10 minutes or even extend it for 20 minutes. And if the line of thought is taking you to one interesting thing to another interesting thing, which you are enjoying, it creates less issue. Majority of the time, we do what we don't enjoy. Okay, so that's where there is a resistance. The neurons have to fire, and then lots of electrical activities have to happen in the brain. Your memory has to keep on spilling all those important proteins which are needed for you to correlate, but you are not interested. Okay, so if you are not interested, body also resists. So that's where you do things with less efficiency. Okay, when you do with less efficiency, you have to put more effort, and when you put more effort, it is more stress. That stress is much that's worse than the physical stress. That's why in yoga we say that it is the Manomaya Kosha which you need to really fix first, because that percolates into Annamaya Kosha, then there is a pathology in you. So you can fix it at the acute level here, then this becoming a chronic problem can be prevented.
True. Wonderfully said, Dr. Manjunath. And this gives me an insight that why people, especially kids or younger generation, they go on playing the video games on the mobile phone and whatnot, different gadgets. They're always craving for sweets. They need something to munch upon. And our whole society is, designed in such a way. You go to a movie, you are sitting for 3 hours, they promote you to take popcorn with you. See, it is so well designed that we get into a situation that we have to pay our medical bills much later in a much bigger way.
No, you said it very right. See, the problem is, once again, it's body's response. Body is asking for an additional dose of sugar.
Yes.
But either your child or somebody else or myself, maybe, I will never pick only that much of a dosage.
Correct.
Okay? I take a big bowl and I keep on eating whether I need it or not. That's why it is called junk eating.
Yes.
Okay. So fat eating is, fat diet is always correlated with that.
True.
So it's wonderful always to just look around. We have the solutions. Yes. And we have to put a little bit of an extra effort in actually taking care of ourselves. Okay. Yes. So later we should not repent. That proudly we should say that at around 60 years, I don't have a diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, or anything else, but I am much fit to do a 1.5 hour yoga, a 4 kilometer, I can walk 4 kilometers, and I can eat jackfruit, I can eat rasagulla and laddu and digest it without any problem. That's where our health is.
True. That was a wonderful discussion, Dr. Manjunath. I had such a relishing experience of your talk after such a long time, even though we are busy with our own activities. This gives such a nice inputs with your scientific perspective. And I'm sure most of the viewers must have enjoyed the discussion and the talk of yours. And the take home things which you gave, TTT, WWW, and the last one, DDT.
And I forgot one more thing, MMM. So that is for the mind, mastering the monkey mind.
Yes. So if these things are really put into action and a big awareness is brought into our communities, I'm sure not just COVID, any other serious issues also coming up in future or much later date, our systems are robust enough to take care of that. Our own brain is a supercomputer as we know today, much, much bigger than that ever created. So we just need to kind of believe ourselves, believe in our system, and rest will be taken care. And last message I would like to give from my hand, which already you have spoken, is to tune back with nature. That's what I think yoga and naturopathy is all about. So let us see that this happens and this brings a change with our community, with our own community and a larger community as well. Thanks so much, Dr. Manjunath, for your valuable time sparing this. And I'm sure this will help and guide a lot of our youngsters and the community as a whole. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gurudatta. Thank you, Dr. Nagajyoti, and the whole team of Enigma Karnataka. And sure. You have made me talk about diseases, though I'm a researcher. But this has also given me lots of insights in this understanding of how do we apply. So doing research is not great unless you apply it. True. So that's what we are trying to do. Thanks again for inviting me. It was my pleasure spending time with all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Manjunath.
Thank you.